I guess we're filming. Hey, what's going on, Ryan, with Intersection Records? We are talking lead singer, frontman. Okay, but a little caveat: we're gonna do on this show my top frontmen that don't play an instrument. So no Neil Youngs, no Kurt Cobain's, or not that he would make my list anyway, but no Billy Joel's or Elton John's, or guys that play instruments. Now, some of the guys on my list, maybe they'll strap a guitar on every once in a while. Occasionally they'll play something, but primarily they're just straight up frontman. And let's talk about that real quick. It's a different animal. It's one thing to go play live in front of people and have the guitar I don't want to say it's a security blanket, but it kind of is, especially if you've been in a band before and you play songs with a guitar. And then for some songs, maybe it's a song that doesn't need two guitars. So you put it down and you go take just the mic and you go front a band. It's a different thing. You have nothing to hold on to. Freddie Mercury used to have a mic with a little bit of a mic stand so he could go do that move. Some guys hold the whole mic like this. It's a different deal, and it can be awkward too, especially when you do 30 songs in a night with a guitar, and then 2 or 3 times a night or once a night you just go be a front man. It's and you better be fun to watch. It's one thing to kind of throw some shapes with the guitar. When you're fronting, you better be good. You better deliver some goods, or at least that's what I think you should do. And the guys on my list deliver goods, and I'm looking at I got 45 people, right? Because that's normal. And then my 45th guy, some people are going to be mad immediately, but Jim Morrison comes in at number 45. I love Jim Morrison. I love the Doors. And yes, he's famous for doing some crazy things on stage, but a lot of times, watch Live at the Hollywood Bowl. He just stands there and croons. And he's not very exciting. Yeah, he would get crazy and take drugs and take his clothes off on stage. And I'm sure some of those shows were great, but Jim Morrison comes in at 45. By the way, everybody on my list, and I know there's guys I'm missing on this list. I don't know every singer, but these are the people that I like. And Ozzy Osbourne comes in next at 44. Ozzy, frontman of Black Sabbath, obviously. He wasn't real exciting on stage either. He had a cool voice, and he was kind of a creepy persona. Coming in next, and some people are going to get mad, Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. He also had a brief cup of coffee with Black Sabbath on the Born Again tour. He tells a funny story on the Born Again tour, and this same thing has happened to me before, except his is a little bit different. And I dropped my notes. So they did dry ice on stage, and when he first joined Sabbath, he didn't know all the lyrics, so he had cheat sheets on the ground, and there was so much dry ice and smoke that he couldn't read the lyrics to the song, so he kind of had to make some up. But Ian Gillan, great singer. He comes in at 43. Pat Benatar, 42. Great, still to this day. Great lead singer, great vocalist, great rocker, great energy. I've never seen her live. I want to see her live. Coming in at 41, Luke Spiller from a band called The Struts. It's like the modern day Queen. Check out The Struts. By the way, check out my channel and subscribe to the channel. We do shows every single day. And we would appreciate it. Luke Spiller. Check out the band The Struts. Really good. They're young guys, but probably about 30 now. He's an amazing frontman, like I said, a Freddie Mercury of the modern day. Sam Cooke, number 40. Some of these guys don't have a lot of familiarity with, just because they're before my time. But what you talk about, a singer and performer, Sam Cooke coming at 40. Jeff Tate from Queensryche coming in at 39. The voice of modern progressive rock. Operation Mindcrime, the album Empire. Just a great operatic voice. And he comes in at 39. Peter Gabriel comes in at 38. Legendary frontman of Genesis. Crazy man with all of his costume changes and shaving his hair down the middle and cutting his eyebrows off and being bizarre and dressing up as a fox and really kind of inventing some of the theatrical rock that, still happens today. But he was quite the front man. And in the 80s, I saw him in 93 at Buckeye Lake and outside of Columbus. It was an amazing show. Lou Gramm comes in at 37. Did I skip a 30? Yeah. 38 was Peter Gabriel. 37 is Lou Gramm from Foreigner. Hot-Blooded, check it and see. Cold as Ice, Jukebox Hero, all those songs, all that voice. You can say what you want about Foreigner, not in the Hall of Fame, by the way, right? Because that makes sense. Foreigner was great. They had a great iconic lead singer, had a great voice. Lou Gramm. Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes at 36. Chris Robinson is a great frontman. He comes, from the Mick Jagger line of frontmen, and the lanky guy that moves around and dances kind of funny. Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes. His band, Chris Robinson's Brotherhood, is a really cool band that broke up a few years ago. Now he's back, of course, with his brother. Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam comes in at 35. So Eddie Vedder puts on the guitar every once in a while, but let's face it, he's a front man. He's an old school front man in the Roger Daltrey school of fronting bands. I saw him with my daughter Zoe this last fall, and I was blown away. I hadn't seen them since the 90s, and I couldn't believe how good he was. I mean, he was head and shoulders for me the whole thing, because here, let's get back to this frontman thing. The guys that just deliver the goods, and they are working so hard that you actually earn a new level of respect for them because they're working their asses off. Part of the frontman's job, he doesn't have an instrument. He is working the crowd. He is working the room. He is connecting. When I play live, I look at every single person in that crowd in their eyes. I make sure that almost on every song, it's part of the thing. You're connecting with people. Otis Redding comes in at 34, sitting on the dock of the bay. All those great songs. Otis Redding died in a plane crash. Dock of the Bay hadn't even come out yet. I think he was already dead by the time that thing went to number 1. Otis Redding. Bono. U2's iconic frontman. Again, he'll put a guitar on for a couple songs. Maybe Desire or something, but he's a frontman. He's running around with his glasses on, getting up on a wedge with his foot and posing. Posing. By the way, we're going to do another show of frontmen that play instruments too. So this is a 2-parter. Might even be a 3-parter, because I might then do a show on my favorite, the voices. So we're talking persona, we're talking frontman. We're going to do, this thing and the piano thing, but then we're going to do just strictly the voice. Bono, 33. Marvin Gaye, 32. Check out my show on What's Going On's album. Check out Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On album. Check out I Want You. What a heartbreaking story. What a great singer. And again, maybe more of a singer than frontman. Alice Cooper at 31. Alice Cooper is unbelievable live. Alice Cooper is still out there playing. If you haven't seen Alice Cooper, don't say, hey, I don't like Alice Cooper's music. Go just for the thing. Just for the spectacle and to see what he does. It's crazy and it's fun and it's exciting. And his band's amazing with Nita Strauss on guitar. She's unbelievable. Check out Alice Cooper. He comes in at 30. John Anderson from Yes. We like Yes on this channel. No, we haven't talked enough old school progressive rock. You'll notice that a lot of my album rankings are modern progressive rock. Excuse me, not album rankings, album reviews. And I just did the album by Eyeless Owl yesterday. It came out today. I don't know. John Anderson from Yes. Great voice, great singer. He still sounds great to this day. Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots. He was in Velvet Revolver. I didn't really like Stone Temple Pilots when they came out because I thought it was kind of forcing that grunge thing and forcing that kind of Eddie Vedder voice, but you know what? He grew on me big time. And now when those songs come on and I see the energy and I realize that he was a legit frontman guy that you couldn't take your eyes off of. We can't take our eyes off the frontman, right? If they're good. Same thing with great guitar players or a great drummer. You can't take your eyes off them. Lane Staley comes in at 28. My favorite singer of the whole grunge era. And Chris Cornell's not on my list, primarily because he plays guitar more than he does front. But even more than Chris Cornell, Lane Staley from Alice in Chains was my favorite grunge band, even though they were kind of a heavy metal band, really, hard rock. Lane Staley was unbelievable. Check out the scene in the movie Singles where he's on stage, and it's just amazing. Brad Delp from Boston. Brad Delp from Boston. I was fortunate enough to see Boston back in the early 90s. He was still fantastic. I mean, those notes that he hits on those first 3 albums, the first album debut in 76, Don't Let Go, Don't Look Back in 78, and then they wait 8 years to put out Third Stage. Great albums. Brad Delp's voice was incredible. Rest in peace, sir. Ann Wilson from Heart. She's a force of nature and a freak of nature. The way that she can still sing. She's done things with Jason Bonham in the Led Zeppelin world where she's doing the Zeppelin thing. Crazy on You. Dreamboat Annie. She has a presence. Along with her sister, can sing well and play guitar. Ann Wilson comes in at 26. Peter Wolf from Jay Giles Band. You talk about a fun frontman, the American Mick Jagger. Is Peter Wolf the American Mick Jagger? I don't know. Either him or another guy that's coming up here soon. Number 24, Rod Stewart. First in the Jeff Beck group. Then in Faces. Then he went solo. I mean, Rod Stewart is one of the coolest frontmen of all time. I've seen him many, many times, and it's still a great show every single time. He's funny, and that's the other thing. You gotta have personality. You gotta say stupid things, not stupid things, but funny things, right? Cool things sometimes. Sometimes make fun of yourself a little bit. These guys all have, it's all personality. It's all. You gotta have that to be able to do this. Not everybody's able to do it. Some people, unfortunately, do it that should not be doing it because they're the only guy that can sing. Moving on, Brian Johnson from AC/DC takes over for Bon Scott in 79. In 80, comes out with Back in Black, and they're off into the races. From there on, Brian Johnson's is cool. He still sounds great. I don't know how he sings like that. I mean, AC/DC is... Some of those songs are just, I can't sing them. Shoot to Thrill. I love that song. John Popper from Blues Traveler. He plays harmonica on stage quite a bit. I'm not counting harmonica in as the instrument thing, even though the harmonica is an amazing instrument. But it's just a little side piece thing that you can do. And he's a frontman primarily. What a unique voice. Nobody talks about Blues Traveler. Nobody talks about how unique and good his voice is. How great his lyrics are. How fun he is to watch. You know, when he first started out, he was so heavy that just the sight of him was a scene. And then he had the gastric bypass surgery and lost all the weight. He's a great frontman. Check him out. Grace Slick from Airplane, Jefferson Starship, and Starship. The whole album, Red Octopus, her singing with Marty Ballin on Miracles is one of my favorite songs. White Rabbit, you know, it's just iconic. Vocalist, beautiful artist. She paints. Anthony Kiedis is at number 20 from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That guy's pretty badass. That whole band's great. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Kiedis is an athlete on stage. You know, again, he's running like a crazy person, and he's amazing. Anthony Kiedis. 2019, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson doesn't get enough love on this channel, but you know what? We're not into too much of the pop, modern pop stuff. Michael Jackson was an incredible dancer, performer, singer, showman. He had the whole package. He came from the James Brown School. Michael Jackson has to be on this list. I'm sorry, but he was an incredible frontman. Bon Scott comes in at 18, the original singer from AC/DC. You know, maybe he doesn't have the greatest voice in the world. Maybe he doesn't even have as good of a voice as Brian Johnson, but he was an animal. He was intense. He was, and I just came up with somebody that I forgot off this list, and I'm gonna insert him, I think, next, tied with 17. And I'm glad I remembered him because somebody was gonna blow me up. Bon Scott was incredible. The nastiness, the edginess, the rawness, the raucous, the dirty and grit. It just, and I forgot Ronnie Van Zant from Leonard Skinner. So we're gonna say 18B. So Bon Scott and Ronnie Van Zant coming in at 18. You know, I mean, again, attitude. He'd fight you if you messed up a chord or screwed up in the studio. They were scared of him. He was the leader of the band by fear because he was intimidated. He would intimidate those guys, and he could command a stage. He was a great singer, and coming in at 17, Stevie Nicks, my first girlfriend. When I saw that Rumors album, and I've said this probably on this channel, when I saw that Rumors album, and I flipped it over, and there was a better picture, I think, of Stevie in the back, that was it for me. And that was probably 19. I was probably 5. Then that's all it took. It was her, and to this day, I love her. And I love Christy McVie too, who we lost here a few months ago. And we will be singing Saturday night. Maybe we'll be doing a Christy McVie song, and I'll be singing it. Yeah, and maybe we'll do a Stevie song. Okay, where are we? David Coverdale comes in at 16, right? So he joins Deep Purple after Ian Gillan gets kicked out or quits. And he's an unknown guy from the northern part of England, and he joins Deep Purple, one of the biggest bands in the world. They do the Burn album, which is incredible. They do 2 more records, Stormbringer and Come Taste the Band. Come Taste the Band with the album cover with the wine glass, and the guys are in the wine glass because it's the 70s, and right? You can do that shit. Then he forms Whitesnake, and they do some great blues albums. They do the great Slide It In album with John Sykes on guitar, and then of course they do the big album with In the Still of the Night and Here We Go Again, and they go overground and they get huge. But he was a great, until to this day, he can get up there and just command a stage, holds that mic stand, great. David Johansson, is he the American Mick Jagger? David Johansson was in a band called the New York Dolls. They only did 2 records. Did they maybe do a 3rd record? They did 2 or 3 records, period. But they basically invented glam rock, glam metal, things that, you know, bands like Guns N' Roses and bands like, you know, I hate to say Poison on this channel, but things like that. I mean, it's all there, but it's cooler. Personality Crisis. I saw him one time. He's like, "What do you think about that new German Pope?" And it was just and then he just stood there and looked at people, and we were like in the 4th row. I'm like, that was cool. I don't, you know, just a random thing to say. Tina Turner coming in at 14. Tina Turner should be higher. I've seen Tina many times. She's from St. Louis. I think she was actually born in Tennessee, and then moved to East St. Louis and kind of worked the club scene in East St. Louis. She did most of her early work in the St. Louis area with Ike Turner, who I've seen also. Ike Turner blew me away, by the way, when I saw him in the 90s. Incredible performer. Rocket 88. Is that the first rock and roll song? Rocket 88, 1953? Might be. I know he's a big asshole, but he was a genius. River Wide, Mountain High. I mean, just, you know, all the Private Dancer stuff. She's incredible. Steven Tyler. He's coming in at 13. Lucky 13. Steven Tyler's amazing. Is he the American Mick Jagger? I love Aerosmith. I love their first 6 or 7 records. Once you start getting into the Permanent Vacation, Pump era, it's not quite as good for me. But those 70s albums rocks. Toys in the Attics, Night at the Ruts, first record, Get Your Wings. I mean, awesome, awesome, grimy, greasy rock. It's nasty and dangerous. I mean, and he's the guy. Him and Joe Perry. I mean, just delivering the goods, and he's out there with the fringes. And by the way, there's no way that they weren't inspired by the New York Dolls too. And David Johansson. Coming in at 12. Maybe he's too high on this list, but he's got the voice. Steve Perry from Journey. You know, I mean, he wasn't much of a showman. He wasn't jumping around. He was a crooner. But we all long for the tour where Steve Perry comes back into Journey and everybody feels like they're, 19 again. And we are 19 because it's so good. Right? The beers are $1.50. Steve Perry's great. His era of Journey for me is the best era. I do like Arnel Pineda, and he could almost make this list because he's a great frontman. Arnel is amazing. Let's move on. Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. Say what you want. I know we got lots of people that maybe aren't into the metal thing. Bruce Dickinson does this. He leads sings one of the biggest bands in the world. Then after they get all their stuff packed up, he flies the jumbo jet with the whole stage, all of the crew and his whole band. He flies the airplane to the next continent where they set up. And then they get on and he flies it to the next continent. They're one of the biggest bands in the world. They're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they're not good enough, right? Watch my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame show. Subscribe to my channel. Bruce Dickinson, Axl Rose breaks the top 10 because Axl Rose is a great performer and one of the hardest working guys in the business. I'll never forget seeing them finally at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, and they're doing Night Train. I think it's the encore, and he's just got a steady stream of water just dripping off his elbow because he's sweating so hard, and his voice is broken, and it's not as good as it was when he was 25, but he's working so hard. And this goes back to, we were talking about how these guys have to work a stage and work a crowd. And even if you do have a chink in your armor and your voice isn't what it is, the same thing with David Coverdale. His voice isn't what it was, but he's working so hard that you, on a human level, appreciate what you're seeing because a 65-year-old man is giving you, in David Coverdale's case, a 70-whatever-year-old man is giving you everything he's got, and it's a young man's game. This is not an old man's game, okay? Ronnie James Dio comes in at 9. He was in a band called Elf. After Richie Blackmore is getting ready to leave Deep Purple, he forms Rainbow with Ronnie on vocals, Man on the Silver Mountain. Their second album, Rainbow Rising, might be the best hard rock album ever made. Rainbow Rising. Listen to the song Light into Black. Listen to the song Stargazer. Listen to the song Stargazer. If you do anything, and I know, again, that's pretty heavy stuff, but it's so good and so worth it. Roger Daltrey comes in at 8 from The Who. Spinning the microphone, right? Spinning it, letting it go, and getting it, that technique that he does. He's got the fringes on his arms at Woodstock. He's got the hair, Does he invent the long, white, blonde hair mane, him and Plant? Just an athletic performer on stage running around. These guys got to be in shape. I need to get in a little bit better shape for some of these things that we're doing this summer. Okay, Robert Plant, number 7. I mean, the Golden God. Robert Plant's amazing. And you can write lyrics like, Stairway to Heaven and all the albums. Every song on all their albums are great, and he wrote all the lyrics, right? And he could perform. Maybe he's not quite as physical of a performer as Daltrey is, but he can sing, he can scream, he can do the whole thing. Robert Plant comes in at number 7. Rob Halford from Judas Priest. We have not done a Judas Priest show. We are going to be doing one because they're one of the most important rock bands in ever. Finally inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year. Stained Class is one of my favorite albums of all time. Sin After Sin. British Steel. Hellbent for Leather. Sad Wings of Destiny. I mean, again, these are bands that are heavier than some people want. But boy, it's a payoff if you can break through and understand that they invented a genre. That first Rainbow record with Ronnie James Dio invents what becomes heavy metal. Prior to that, Judas Priest basically invents heavy metal. Moving on, David Lee Roth, number 5, Van Halen's frontman, jumping, doing the splits. Just the shrieks and the singing and the swagger and the energy and the Jack Daniels and, the party. He's the party. He's funny. He'll say something really stupid. Nowadays, he wears like glitter and really says stupid things. But, it's stupid, but they're funny. You laugh at it anyway. You're laughing at him. Just looking at him, you laugh. It's like watching Chris Farley, fall down a flight of stairs. It's hilarious. Everything he does. David Lee Roth is a genius at that, and he comes in at number 5. Freddie Mercury comes in at 4. Freddie Mercury played piano, played some guitar on Crazy Little Things Like Love. Of course, plays piano on Bohemian Rhapsody. I am going to put him on this list because he does a lot of fronting, a great band. And you talk about a performer with endless energy. He has to be on this list, and he has to be high because, boy, and they weren't even as big in America as they were in Europe. They're great. He's great. Coming in at 3, Paul Rodgers. Paul Rodgers was number 1 for me. He's the lead singer of Free, All Right Now, right? That song. And then he joined Bad Company, and he, just that voice. It's really, for him, it's about a voice, too. If I could sound like any singer, it would probably be that. We don't do Bad Company songs in my band or Free songs in my band. We've tried them before. In fact, our bass player, Billy, sings Paul Rodgers probably better than I do because it's untouchable vocally, and I just don't want to go down that road because it's the top grade vocally for me. Paul Rodgers comes in. 2, Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger, there's only one person that's better than Mick Jagger. And can you guess who it is? Who knows who's coming in at 1? Because Mick Jagger is the best. He's the best frontman in a rock band ever. Stadium shows. For years, they did stadium shows from the 70s on. Stadiums, not football stadiums, not hockey arenas. Running the distance. How many steps did he get in? Did he run 10 miles in a show? Up and down the catwalks, this and there, back. Getting in your face, making you party. If you are having a tough time, he's going to get in your grill and make you party. Mick Jagger comes in at 2. And the number 1 greatest frontman of all time is James Brown, Mr. Dynamite, one of the greatest entertainers of all time. If you haven't seen the documentary Mr. Dynamite, watch that. Subscribe to my channel. James Brown, dance. Michael Jackson and Prince basically stole his gig. Bruno Mars stole his gig. He's the best. He's the best for me because Mick Jagger copied off of him. Not the other way around. He influenced everybody. Little Richard, maybe James took some of Little Richard, but Little Richard's a piano player. He's going to be on my other list, the frontman. Subscribe to the channel. Peace out. Have a good one. See ya. Thanks a lot.